reminder, join us tomorrow too. Even if you didn't register, but you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so into this resilient content, you could just click the same link and join us tomorrow. And then I did post links in the chat room to the page for your CEUs. You purchase your CEUs. After submitting payment, you'll see a message on the same page with a link to the evaluation form. That page that I've linked to in the chat room does give you more instructions as well. And also it does include an email address for Deanne, my assistant. You can always reach out to her if you have any questions. There will be an email that goes out tomorrow that has that same information. So you'll also receive an email tomorrow after the end of the day tomorrow. Okay, so without further ado, here's our last presentation today, and it's with Sarahbeth, and she recruited 2 volunteers to help out, Deb and Jen. Okay, Sarahbeth, take it away.
Thank you. So welcome everybody to Sometimes Laughter is the Best Medicine. We're going to be closing out the day with hopefully a little lighthearted caregiver fun. So as Denise mentioned, I have 2 of my gracious and lovely CCC colleagues here with me today, Jenn Chan and Deb. And we are going to go through this program and just do the best we can and have a good time. So here's what you can expect. We're going to do a little bit of a game show mashup. I took some concepts from Jeopardy and Let's Make a Deal. We're going to have some questions, some answers. It's basically what we would call in the learning and development field situational learning, things that we've all been through, caregiving scenarios that we're going to use as a jumping board to talk about best practices and tips and advice. There are no wrong answers. So Jen and Deb, I want you to feel off the spot, even though it's kind of a mild competition. Really, we're just throwing things out there, and I'm hoping that we all can chime in and add our 2 cents. Just like in caregiving, there's no right or wrong. We're just doing the best we can. What you can take away from this in the notes highlights are some insights that we want to be interactive, that we want to be genuine, be open. And really, if we can laugh at ourselves, I think that's the best medicine. It helps us all to build that resilience. So before we go forward, a quick introduction in terms of a bit about my background, and then if it's okay, Deb and Jen, I'll ask you to do a little intro for your caregiver background as well. I had 5 very intense years as a caregiver. My mom, God bless her, breast cancer, then lung cancer. My sister, Luann, affectionately called Lulabelle, had pancreatic cancer, went into hospice and was there for a good 9 months, lasted far longer than we all thought. And then I was the primary caregiver for my dad, who had congestive heart failure and dementia. And so he was left alone after the whole ordeal with my mom and my sister. So it was a lot of visits to him at his house. And then we transitioned him into a nursing home. So that's a little bit about me. Also, sandwich generation profile. I was doing my caregiving experience, taking care of my family, my little girl at the time, and working a full-time career. So it was that sandwich generation lifestyle, trying to be there for everyone, do everything, not ask for help, not take care of my own health, just heads down, got to get it done. And because of that experience, it's pretty much informed my career path now, which is to help people not make the mistakes I did, share a little bit of my lessons learned, especially in the workplace with those hardworking moms. So that's a little bit about my background. Jen, if you wouldn't mind, could you also share a little bit about yours?
Of course, Sarahbeth, thanks for having me on here. Little in my caregiving background, I started as a young caregiver. I started in my 20s, and I took care of my grandma for 10 years. She passed away in May 2015. She had diabetes, she was incontinent, she was in a wheelchair, and then ultimately she got a bed sore that turned into a stage 4 cancer wound, which brought her into 2 months of hospice care. And during the hospice cares at home, I was right there by her side when she had a stroke. And then 2 days later, she transitioned. So it was a 10-year progress, slow progression. And it was mainly towards the end where everything really happened. But as with caregiving, you know, as I think many of us here, the caregiving work, the passion that we develop for caregiving has definitely inspired me to pursue continue doing caregiving in terms of being an entrepreneur and being a facilitator for caregiver support groups present day.
So true. Thank you. How about you, Deb?
So I'm currently a caregiver. I came to caregiving later in life when my dad was diagnosed with
Deb, I'm just going to interrupt you a little bit. If you could speak up, it sounds like the sound quality is very low, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely. Is this better?
No, it still sounds a little muffled. I'm sorry.
We don't usually have this problem.
That's okay. We'll do the best we can.
So I came to caregiving later in life, in my mid to late 50s, when my dad was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. And I saw him through that and then became my mother's caregiver. She just turned 89 in February. We're keeping in her home because she's blind and she does really well in there. I lost my job due to caregiving issues, which sent me down the career path I'm on right now, which is working with you guys through the CCC program and writing and taking care of mom. You know, it's I'm in it at the moment, completely.
You are in it for sure. Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay, so this is how this is going to work. I am going to show the Jeopardy board. And because I wasn't able to get the full question into the little square, I got a summary of the question. So you're going to see a summary of the question appear. I'll read the question, and then Jen and Deb will ring in with their buzzers to see who's going to answer. So Jen and Deb, if you could show us your buzzers so we can hear them. I can't hear a thing. George. And Deb, let me hear yours. Can anyone hear that? Shoot.
What?
I hear yours, Jen.
Oh, okay.
And Deb, no, I'm hearing nothing. How about if you do a clap?
Did you hear that?
No. But we're going to watch you do it. So we'll call on you when we see you make that motion. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good. Here's the game board. So, and pardon me, I need to be able to read. You're going to see me glancing at my notes because it's just the nature of the way this game works. So here's our three categories. Talking about my generation, who are you going to call? Well, okay, and Final Jeopardy. So the first category we're going to hit, if it's okay, is talking about my generation. And here's what this entails. This category provides advice for people at all stages in life. Here's the summary. In a grocery store checkout line, she is buying both a package of Depends and a box of feminine napkins or pads. She's a member of the panelist guest. I saw Deb.
The sandwich generation.
Yes, correct. And if you could expound a little bit, share with us what are some of the challenges of the sandwich generation? What comes to mind?
Well, what comes to mind for me is that you have a family and a home that you have to take care of and be responsible for on one end. And then on the other end, you are working with maybe a parent or someone that needs your help. And in the middle of all that, you've got a full-time job. I will tell you, my only taste of a sandwich generation was when I got a puppy. Because when I was with my mother, I had to worry about the puppy and worry about the dog and worry about work. I don't know how you guys do it.
That's a good taste. That's sure. You know that worry, it's the pull. And puppies are like babies, right? When you have a pet, especially a young pet, that's like having a little baby. Good job. Okay, we're going to go to the next. Here we go. The $500 answer. They have a reputation for leading passionate crusades in the 1960s and the 1970s, and they don't really see the need to retire. Who are they? Deb is in again. All right.
Okay, it's me.
It's a boomer generation. I am in there. And maybe the hardest part of this right now, because I'm in caregiving, is that don't know where I'm going to retire and how that's going to work out. Because so much is dependent upon my mom right now.
Yeah, that's tough. Jen, did you want to add anything to that? Some of the considerations of a boomer, things they're thinking about?
I was gonna say boomers. So that was gonna be my answer.
Okay, all right. Last one in this category. We'll finish it out. $1,000 question. This group is known for being treated as special and important. Surprisingly, they're officially the nation's largest caregiving group, surpassing the baby boomer generation. And consequently, they are going to be the largest group of caregivers going forward. Who are they? Jen.
What are the millennials?
Yes.
Oh, yes, I got one.
You're in the game. Okay. What are some of the things that considerations of caregiving that millennials are facing right now?
I mean, currently right now, obviously the obvious topic is COVID. But in terms of being part of the millennial group, it is also considering the financial needs of taking care of our older adults, the financial planning piece, and also having the conversation as millennials are in the younger adult population, learning how to have the conversation with your loved ones. And if it is for your parents, we're not taught how to have those conversations. So I would say the challenges would be to begin to start financially planning for it, and then have the conversation with your parents about what quality of life they're looking for.
Yeah, that's great. Very, very good. Okay, time for a commercial break. Let's make a deal. We're going to involve our audience participants. And this, by the way, is what I suggest every caregiver should have. It's my daughter's old Disney princess wand. It has a series of different noises based on the princess. And I found, I know this is probably a little TMI, when I was a caregiver, if I simply did this noise before I had to do a task that I wasn't looking forward to, I got to do the laundry. Oh, I can do the laundry. Oh, I gotta run to the grocery store and run to pick up those prescriptions at the pharmacy. Oh, I can run to do that errand. It's no problem. Okay, enough of silliness. Let's involve you. Denise, I'm going to ask you to monitor the chat. Lucky members of our viewing audience will have a chance to win actual prizes if they can produce an everyday household item that I'm going to ask for, and that might come in handy as a caregiving tool. Okay, here's the first one. This item is necessary to jot down quick thoughts or notes that you might otherwise forget. In text 10 seconds, could people on your video produce what it is we're looking for? Is a little video reminder. Denise, you can watch who's in the chat area to see who can come up with one.
Oh, I saw one come up.
Who's got it?
Okay, Bruce, Beverly. Yeah, Bruce and Beverly are first.
All right, you have to choose the winner. I'm not going to do that.
Oh my gosh. Oh. Okay. I'm going to go alphabetical, so I'm going to pick Beverly.
Okay, Beverly. Here's what you've won. Lucky winner. Here's what you've won. A soap and lotion wellness kit and fragrant soothing sea salt. Compliments of my little side business. We are sharing the sun. So if you wouldn't mind typing to Denise in an email or whatever is easy for you, your address, and I will get that off to you. Congratulations, lucky winner.
Sarahbeth sent me her products and they are awesome and wonderful and luxurious.
Thank you very much. And I'll admit, I actually don't make them. I don't make soaps and lotions, but I private label. I found a wonderful little apothecary. And so we work together. I get the items, I label it, and it works like a charm.
I love that you have an apothecary. We all need to have an apothecary.
True that.
Yeah.
So true. Okay, back in the game. Here we go. Who are you going to call? So in this category, it's not about Ghostbusters, but about having your formal and informal support team on standby. It's about that dream team. Okay? So for our $250 answer, Whether it's picking up extra groceries now and then, or helping with medical bills or prescriptions, there's always something. And you're Miss Caregiver or Mr. Caregiver worried about your own finances. Who are you going to call? Panelists. Who's ringing in? Jen.
I can speak from my experience. I called on my parents. I took care of my grandma, so my dad was there, and also my aunties. I was helping with looking at some of the financials and seeing that I needed help. And what I really learned was, for those who did not have the strength to be a caregiver, that wasn't their thing. Their strength was to provide money on the side. So that for me was part of, as you said, building the team. Not all of us can do the day-to-day companionship or the task involved, or the personal care involved, but other people can help. And when I knew that that was their strength, that was what they were willing to do, I called on that when that was necessary. And I was not shy about it, because that was the village. And I finally found, who the players were and what they wanted to do.
That's excellent. That's wonderful. And unfortunately, this is one of those areas with caregiving. There's the expenses that you have while you're caregiving. I think they estimate it's around $7,000, $8,000 a year. And then there's that possible long-term effect where if you have to cut back at work or leave the workforce, it hits your own retirement. It hits your own ability to save. So, so there's that whole financial equation. So having a financial planner and even just a mindset of being able to be aware of it and lean on family when you need to, it's like a little bit of a vicious circle if you're not aware of it. So yes, thank you. Back in the game, $500 category. For some reason, everyone likes to say, just let me know how I can help. For some reason, you draw a blank every time and say, I'm fine. Are they crazy for asking? Are you crazy for not having an answer? Who are you going to call when you need help? Deb, you're in.
So I figured when I was caring for my mom when Dad was in the hospital, and she said to my aunt, "Oh no, we don't need help," I almost ripped the phone out of her hand and said, "No, we really, really do." So one of the things that I've learned is, particularly in an emergency, that people are really anxious to help. So if you have a list in your head of what's needed, everything from taking the garbage out to picking up milk, then you can answer that. But here's what I also learned. It's okay to say, at the moment, I don't need anything, but I'm going to reserve the right to come back to you. And everybody I said that to stepped up when I asked them to.
I love that. I love that. That's such a nice way to still have that little chip for when you want to cash it in. Perfect. Okay, last question or answer in this category. You love your siblings, or at least you remember a time when you did. But they call it the worst times, wanting health updates, and they usually find something to nitpick. Often the call doesn't end well, and you'd rather avoid it altogether. Any advice? Okay, Deb, it's all you.
I'm going to say that I have what I call my caregiver support peeps. And these are my friends and family that surround me, that I know I can call and share what's going on, and they'll let me vent, and they love me enough to do that. They know our family, so sometimes they give me insight into thinking about something differently. The one thing I know is that if I have to talk stuff out, and if I can't find somebody to do that with, it will fester and fester and fester till I just explode. And sometimes it's at the wrong person.
Yeah. And, sometimes it's about setting those boundaries, saying, especially I remember in my example, in my situation too, I had multiple siblings calling me. And so I wanted to just say my update once and not 50 times during the day. And in hindsight, now I should have said, I'll call you at this time on this day. But you're right, I just exploded. Okay, Jen, jump in. You have something to say?
Well, same with you, just on the line of getting the phone call and piggybacking on what you said, Sarahbeth, on you just want to say it once. I learned to have pre-scripted text that's ready to go, so that it's saying, I hear your phone call, I'm not available, but I'm able to talk to you at a later time. So it's not really ignoring, but you are purposely postponing the call for a later time when you're more available.
Exactly.
And also not saying the same thing over and over again. Just copy and paste.
Exactly. Yep. Great. Okay. Time for another audience participation gift. Here we go. This item is used to show appreciation for the people in your life who lend a hand on any given day. 10 seconds, please, to produce what this image is. Who's gonna show us what's the little note card there? Come on. I'm seeing Bruce has one. What do you think, Denise?
Yep, Bruce was first. Bruce was first.
Lucky winner, here's what you have won. A variety pack of caregiver cards, compliments of Jenn's senior shower project. So beautiful. Send thoughtful appreciation, love notes to caregivers in your life with these uplifting greeting cards. How lovely. Thank you, Jenn, for donating those.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen.
Nice. I wish I had one of those Don Pardo voices where I could make it sound different, but it's just me. But here's my noise too. Because you can't have enough of this, really. You just can't. Okay.
Hey, Jen, the Parkinson Foundation will also purchase a batch of those as well.
Nice.
Right on. Sounds good. Thank you. And congratulations, Bruce.
Bruce, can you type your address in the chat room? Just a private message to me?
Love that. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Back in the game. Final category before the final Jeopardy. Well, okay. So this category is about let's talk wellness and ways to take care of the caregiver. Think spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, social. Wellness, world of wellness. $250 answer. It's officially Groundhog Day. Zoom calls and work pressure, homeschool monitoring, I can speak, and constant unsettled worry for your caree. And what? Already it's time to make dinner. When will this end? Panelists, what do you have to say? Groundhog Day. Okay, Jen.
What is resilience?
Yes. What are some of the things that you do, your kind of go-tos for your wellness tips?
Of course. Just in terms of all the tips that we've taken today, just from all the speakers from today, one of the things that keeps me going is really exercise. It gives me the extra boost, the energy boost. So if I know there's still more tasks to do, I try to squeeze in, even if it's 1 minute of some type of stretches in between all the little tasks, so that I know that I gave my body a little bit of energy. Maybe it's also drinking a really nice tea, something fragrant, something to stimulate other senses so that I can keep going again. So for my wellness, it's a majority of time it's physical.
Very nice. Okay, sounds great. Thank you. $500 answer. Somehow, thankfully, you're able to keep it together when you're with your caree, whether crisis moments or changing bandages or even dreaded sundowning. But as soon as you're alone, you break down and cry. Why? Panelists. Deb.
I think that you are holding for what is holding it together really, really tight. You know, you're just trying to be, how do I want to put this? You're trying to be happy and optimistic and not make the other person feel like a burden and that everything is just fine. But you know, when you actually get the release of being away from the pressure, sometimes the floodgates do open, and that's okay. It really is okay. It's for me, it can be cathartic to just allow myself to cry about something.
Agree. Yeah, it's that moment too. I think Bev even mentioned it in her session. You know, you're doing. If you get that respite break, sometimes you don't know what to do with yourself. So it could just be that release. I remember sitting down to watch TV and just staring at the wall quite. How insane does that sound? But I was just so emotionally drained. It is what it is. And if that's what you need to do, if you just are sitting to take a moment to breathe, okay. Well, okay, that's it. Okay, thank you. Last one. $1,000 answer. You had no idea caregiving would be so hard or rewarding. You're enjoying this time together, and a kinder, deeper relationship is unfolding with your caree. Days are limited though, and you want ideas to treasure this special time together. Panelists, ideas to treasure this wonderful time. Okay, it was a bit of a tie, so I'm going to have you both go.
Go ahead. So I'll go ahead and jump into it. I think in treasured time together in the digital age now, with all the tools available, voice recordings, I find it very beautiful in terms of, you know, getting the, I mean, I think of it now, the recordings I've had with grandma back in the past, I can still hear her. I can hear her voice, have her tell her stories. And then also videos, recording videos of us being together. So I would say making like any type of audio, video, photo collage of just the present moments that you really want to capture now so that you can revisit them in the future. Those are all completely priceless.
They are priceless. Great ideas. How about you, Deb?
One of the things I learned, particularly with my dad, was try and be in the moment. Like, we're so task focused as caregivers that sometimes we're on this treadmill that we don't think to get off and just say, okay, this afternoon, we're just going to be together, whether it's just talking or cooking or playing cards, but just being together. And that's when I hear the stories that I've never heard before about the family. And that's also where I get insight into my mom that's really helps me understand her better and helps us to be a better team.
Very nice. That's lovely. Thank you both for those answers. Okay, so we're going to get right back out to our audience participation. Let's see. Why isn't it moving? Excuse me 1 minute, technical difficulties. Denise, how come it's not advancing? I'm so sorry.
Are you trying to advance the presentation?
This whole slide. So we can go out and do our final, let's make a deal moment. And it won't, I'm hitting enter on my keyboard and it won't move.
It looks like you're, yeah. Can you, okay.
Back, sorry. Okay, 10 seconds, everybody. This item is helpful to educate and escape the routine. Here's what we're looking for. Who can produce one in the next 10 seconds?
Okay, we've got an, okay. S was the first in the chat room to say journal.
That'll work. Lucky winner, here's what you have won. The book, Your Caregiver Relationship Contract, Compliments of Advocate from Mom and Dad from Deb. A wise and practical journey through some of the hardest conversations you will ever have in your life. Thank you, Deb, very much for making that donation as well. Beautiful.
Happy to.
Okay, so in this final Jeopardy round, everybody gets to play. So in your chat boxes, please, Get ready to type in your answer. It's going to be a little bit of a long-winded one, but we're going to get to hear the music while we talk. This is compliments of a blog that Denise wrote in 2019, and it was titled How to Spot a, you'll fill it in. This person has laser focus because they know it's important and know to lose sight of things that are not important. This person can enjoy the quiet company and connect with their caree. They don't waste words or fill silence with silliness. Who's this person? What do we have in the chat for answers? Because I can't see.
Okay, Deb was the first one. And she said caregiver.
That's right. What are family caregivers? Resilient family caregivers. That's what we all are. And that's what this is all about. Really just thinking of the different things we talk about on the day-to-day, our dream teams, our need for support, even though we don't always know to ask for it, wellness ideas, things that we should be planning for, all make up the family caregiver lifestyle. And here's all of the resilient, good, positive words that we are. So every time you're able to find humor in a difficult situation, you have won. And there's a nice little quote there. I'm not quite sure who that Dr. Steve is, but I wanted to be sure to accredit it to him because that's where I found the quote. And the takeaway is a very big thank you to the panelists, Deb and Jenn, for playing along and sharing their beautiful wisdom with us. And of course, to all the participants and everyone on the call and in this event today for kind of making it so special. And my contact information. So that's all I've got.
Sarahbeth, we do have another 20 minutes and we have to fill our time for CEU requirements.
Let's ask questions and answers.
Yes, so go ahead.
What do we have from the viewing audience?
I think Sarahbeth, you should go ahead and start the conversation with a couple of general questions for us.
Yeah, I guess I would be curious to know who on the call right now in terms of their caregiving experience wants to share some of those special things. I love the treasured moments. I love to hear those special things that people did to capture and record. Who can share some of the things that they did?
Sarahbeth, can I add on to my answer from before?
Sure.
When I emphasize the value of recording, my grandma only spoke Chinese.
Oh. So
for me, the treasured moment was that we can hear her speak Chinese, but say her grandchildren, great grandchildren, and those generations after her, say they've never heard her speak, and the translations. I think there's an educational value to it. There's the intergenerational piece of it.
Yes.
And so for me, the language component of hearing elders speak in their native language could inspire other generations to ignite their interest in learning if their parents or their community or their chosen family did not teach them the language. You know, a lot of time, I feel like personally, a lot of times you want to know your roots, but what if you don't know the language, but you hear it, you want to know, hey, what is grandma saying in this recording? Maybe that could be the treasure hunt. Only you will know. Learn the language and you will unlock her wisdom or something like that.
I love that.
I made that up, but I don't know where that voice came from.
Good voice though. That was great. I love that idea though. That's beautiful. And how many of us, I wish that we could speak a second language. I always feel so at a disadvantage. The people who have that second language are so fortunate. So I think that's wonderful.
How do you keep that language alive today in your family, Jenn?
Chinese, it's very dialect based. There's a lot of different intonations. To keep it alive conversationally, you have to hear it and speak it and practice over again. I can tell you the honest truth. I was probably at 80% fluency when I was taking care of grandma, but now that I haven't been practicing on a daily basis, I'm probably at a 60% of fluency. So for me, I mean, I may talk to a few of my family members, but none of my my peers right now speak it. We may throw in a couple words here and there, but if you don't, if you don't practice it, you might lose it. And I'll throw in another fun thing too, just, in terms of language translation. Caregiving is difficult when you're trying to translate things that in a different language when nobody's ever taught you based on that circumstance. So with the resilient spirit of caregiving, the improvisation aspect, you work with what you got. So you're piecing together, certain words, but you get the point across, and grandma says, okay, I think I get what you're saying. So it's just interesting.
How fluent were you when you first started taking care of her?
How fluent was I? I would also still say 80% fluent with her. There's so many words I probably don't understand, but just the day-to-day conversations. But in the healthcare space, she never taught me healthcare terminology, so I kind of had to learn from my family, or I have to ask, or again, I would piecemeal it. I can share a tiny little translation if you want to find the humor in it. We were in the emergency room. The nurse wanted to ask for consent to put a catheter in grandma, and I had to translate. I don't know how to say catheter in Chinese. Who does? But I said, grandma, they need consent. Okay, when you drink from a straw, and this is all in Cantonese, when you drink from a straw, and she's in the bed, nodding. I said, well, they need to put a straw inside you so that they can monitor your urine. So she nodded, and then I gave the thumbs up, and then the nurse did what the nurse had to do. And so that was a moment of translation, right? I mean, it's a great story to tell later. Sometimes you work with what you got. What are the words I know? This is it. Just for consent in the healthcare space.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what strikes me about that story too, Jen, is that you actually wouldn't speak the language of the healthcare system either. If you had never seen a catheter, how would you even know how to describe what a catheter is? So you had to figure out that, and then actually figure out a way to communicate that to your grandmother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks for listening.
No, thank you.
Amazing. That's amazing.
That is amazing. Other things people would like to share in that vein of those special treasured moments. I'm seeing some stuff in chat about the importance of hands-on.
Yeah, and we do have another suggestion of taking pictures of hands.
Yes.
So it could be the family caregiver and the caree. We use the term caree for care recipient, holding hands, touching hands. That's powerful as well. And Deb is talking about how it is tough to be a nurse and a family caregiver. And I think, in many ways, the family doesn't give you much grace when you are the nurse who is also the family caregiver. They just say, well, you know everything, so figure it out. And it's very different because the emotional component of it is so different when it's your family versus when it's a nurse-patient relationship. Yeah, that's tough. Deb, I'm wondering what it is that you use to stay resilient as you manage both roles. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you can. Oh, there you go.
A lot of reflection and talking to people, especially it was interesting talking to other nurses, because it's really hard to set yourself apart of, am I making a nursing decision today? A lot of my family members stayed with me, or I cared for them. And it's like, is this a family decision, or is this a nursing decision? And I think the toughest thing out of all of it was knowing the bad news. We talked about anticipatory grief, knowing what the outcome was going to be, especially with 3 different ones that were cancer related, and having to try to keep the hope with one was my brother, one was my sister, one was my mother-in-law, having to keep the hope with them so they didn't give up, but knowing that what the outcome was going to be, and that whole balance between the two. So I would go to my nurse friends and say, I don't know what to do anymore, and how do I break this to the family and give them hope, but let them know the truth? that my sister especially, she only lived 6 months. She had neuroendocrine cancer. And it was very far advanced. She was my baby sister. And it was very far advanced when she was diagnosed. So how do I tell her 3 sons, you know, one of them's only 17, her husband, you know, my brothers and sisters, that she's not going to survive this. Her one son had a wedding scheduled the following August. This was in July, and she was not going to be alive for that wedding a year later. How do I tell him when he's only in his 20s that he's got to move his wedding up and do a secret wedding so his mom could be there? And they did. You know, they married in October. She was diagnosed in July and she died in November. And she had her first grandchild was on the way. Her son was getting married. So how do you play that sister role and help her through those pieces, knowing that I have to make people hurry everything up because otherwise she's going to miss all those opportunities? That was my toughest one, I think.
That is really emotional in such a compound, complex way. And yet the gift of the truth ensured that that wedding did happen and that she was part of it. And I think that's what the truth gives us. It's the opportunities to make adjustments, make plans, really make those last weeks and months treasured.
You know, if I could switch gears a little bit too, and I thank everyone for sharing some of those ideas and journaling and all the things we do to treasure the moments. The other thing I think, you know, I'm trying to really think of the positive aspects of caregiving because so much of it is just so hard. But there's also that, as you go through it, those moments that you miss, you know, that life that you miss, so that when you get it back and you have more time to start to think about it, gosh, it's so precious, and you do the things that you were missing and maybe then some. So for me, I would have never thought I would have a soap and lotion business. I used to love going to those farmers markets and those fairs and smelling all the good things. But it wasn't until I was going through the situation and the experience, I thought, wouldn't it be nice to be able to do that? Look at how relaxed those people at those farmers markets look out in the sun and selling things. And now I have that little side hustle. It's my fun thing. So what are some of the things too? I'd love to hear from all of you, either things that you miss and look forward to getting back to, or plans that you're making for, you know, maybe someday I am going to do that business. You know, what's that forward looking idea or business or hobby looking like?
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I gave to my daughter for 25 years. She was medically fragile. So my group of friends, most of them are medical fragile parents also. And it's very difficult when that life stops. A lot of times it stops abruptly, hopefully not traumatically. That you have to decide, who are you going to be now? Because you were so consumed as that caregiver. And for me, being older, this is taking a lot of time to figure out, who am I going to be when I grow up? Because I'm already grown up, but the world's your oyster in some ways, and in other ways, being an older adult, there's a lot of doors that are closed. So I didn't work through most of the caregiving years that I was paid for. So finding a new outlet or a new me. I have plenty of time now, but I don't have the money to do the things I want to do. So if you can plan ahead, that would be great. But a lot of us, I think, spend so much time focused that we don't think of that piece.
Yeah, it's true. And that's why, again, kind of having these forums and being able to talk to other people and know, you know, that there is going to be that time that comes again. And thank you so much for sharing that, Jody. My heart goes out to you for what you've been through. But I tell you, and please, I hope this doesn't sound cliche, you're not done. It's not over. You know, yes, money might be an issue, but there's definitely things that you can do. I know I am much more involved with my church now. I'm on a few different boards. You know, social right now is a little hard because of the pandemic, but if you can give it some soul searching and some real introspect, I know that you can come up with something that maybe is going to be there for you again. And you know what? I'm happy to even brainstorm and soundboard with you. I think probably everybody in this chat would want to help you figure out something that can be your thing to get excited about.
And Tony, I'm glad you came. We connected on LinkedIn. I think it was earlier this week, so I'm so glad that you came. We do events on a regular basis, and I would encourage you guys to stay in touch with us when we put out a call for workshops and presentations, and to think about joining us as a presenter. And I think sometimes when you put your thoughts into a workshop, then you see a little bit of light around what's the subject matter that really speaks to you, and it can be your path forward.
Yeah, I'm seeing people sharing in the chat, baking is relaxing. That is nice. And I wanted, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a great idea. I definitely was an very angry person and sad person for a while. So it's funny for me to even be doing this workshop on laughter is the best medicine, because had you known me back in the day, it was a much different face. It was that resting face of stone. So I know that you do get your joy back, and you do see a different perspective. It might take time. But I'd love to hear other ideas of things that side hustles and businesses that people have going.
You know, I just curious, Sarahbeth, it's interesting to hear you reflect back on who you were, and that you describe yourself as someone who was angry, and okay, you were just determined to get what needed to be done.
That's right. Yes.
Get it done. Move out of my way. I need to get this done. When do you think you finally were able to relax out of that? Get out of my way.
It took a while. I think it was years.
Yeah.
I was very, I was grieving for a while, and because I had resigned, and as Jody shared, I left the workforce. I was out for a while. So you lose a little bit of your confidence, and you feel a little bit lost. So it took me, like I said, and I know we've heard the theme today, our faith. You know, what is it that is your source of strength? It took a while. I went to grief share programs, reading, journaling, writing my story. It was all very cathartic. And Denise, finding this forum, other caregivers to connect with. This is just so important to know that you're not the only one going through it, that we all have these same emotions.
And that your caregiving experience can inspire something quite magnificent in your life. And that after caregiving ends, there's a way to use your caregiving experience in a really powerful, supportive way for other family caregivers. I think that's really such an important message for all of us to keep. Sometimes it feels like time went by, that we stood still and time kept going, and we got caught behind our life. We can catch up in our life. We can start fresh in this moment right now and find the life that works for us.
Denise, I think what's so interesting about that is I've been changed by caregiving, 100% changed. And so what I may have wanted prior to this, I'm finding is different now, and that's okay. You know, so that's the other thing. I think you can become a different person, and the wants and the needs will change as a part of that. Did you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep. And Julia had shared a really important insight in the chat room. She says, I think it's difficult for many to look forward to those sorts of good times down the road when they are still grieving the life and relationships that used to be while caring for their carees. Yeah. I think sometimes it feels like, and I would imagine maybe it felt like this for you, Sarahbeth, that anger and that determination were going to be who you always were.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I had that persona, you know, that career image of myself for such a long time that if you're not that, well, then who are you? And so that took a transition, as Deb just said. You know, it's a different way of thinking. Honestly, I think I'm a little bit nicer person. I think it's a chance to mature and grow up. So I think I have that empathy now for others that I didn't when I was younger. So
Yeah, and S is sharing in the chat room, grieving sometimes starts well before physical death. My mom just passed, but I realized I've been grieving for years since she first got ill. Yeah, thank you, S, for that. We're so sorry about your mom. We talk about grieving starting on the day that you notice that something is different. And it also can be on the day of diagnosis, which is what Carlos was talking about earlier today. Grieving is integral to the caregiving experience. And I think it's so important for others to tell you that grief during caregiving is normal because the losses are significant. You yourself experience the losses, and then you also experience the losses on behalf of your caree. So you feel for two during a caregiving experience. Sometimes you feel for even more than that. If you have kids who are impacted, you feel for them. You might feel for your caree's spouse because there's a change in that relationship. You might feel for your spouse if you're married and your spouse is impacted. So the drain on the emotions is significant during caregiving. And I think we have to be gentle with ourselves after caregiving ends, because think about all that you're healing from, and that healing takes time.
so true. And you know, even with dementia too, that's the other facet. If your caree is someone who has that dementia or Alzheimer's, it was a loss. You know, I for a while thought, geez, my dad must be pretending because I didn't understand enough of the disease progression. But absolutely, you're grieving while that person is still alive and right there in front of you. It's so true, Denise.
Yeah, I see my parents disappearing, and it's just such an odd experience. It's really difficult. And I will tell you that I have a lot of anxiety about it now. It's really an odd experience, and I would have never expected it, but it's just harder than I thought it would be to get to this place with them where the declines are almost daily.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you all so much. We ended on more of a sensitive note than a humorous note, but sometimes it's really just powerful to share with others who understand. So we are so grateful to all of you for being with us today and for sharing your heart. It's so beautiful. So for those of you who are joining us tomorrow, just use the same link. And those of you who are just here for today, thank you so much, and stay connected with us so you can join us again. Okay, take care, everybody.
Sarahbeth, do your wand to close out.
Oh, do your one. Thank you.
Thank you all for humoring this episode.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.